In this quick tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to teleport players in Horizon World. So I made this video in response to a comment written by Drew. He was asking how to use a snippet that he found on the documentation. So me personally, sometimes I might find the documentation a bit confusing, especially when I started out. So during this video, I'm gonna show you how to teleport the player. I'm gonna write a very similar script to it, but I'm gonna try to make it easier. And I'm gonna explain how I explain what it means and everything. Although I expect you to know a little bit of TypeScript. If you don't know any TypeScript, that's fine. I have a couple of videos that teach you TypeScript if you want. But other than that, I'll go over through two different ways. The first way is gonna be the one similar to the documentation. The other way, it's gonna use a spawn point. So let's start with the first one. The first one, we need to go on the top left hand side and go to player settings, and we need to make sure that the custom player movement is enabled. After this is enabled, we're set to use the first method. Before we start, we need to know when we're gonna teleport the player. So for this, I'm just gonna make a quick script that connects to a trigger. So this way, when we touch the trigger, we teleport the player. So to do that, I'm gonna go to the build, I'm gonna go under Gizmo, and then I'm gonna drag a trigger. And then just to know where to step, I'm gonna get a shape and just place it underneath the trigger, because the trigger is invisible in game mode. And then now we need a script, so we're gonna go to the scripts part. I've already made a demo, but let's delete that. Let's make another one. We're gonna call it trigger. And then let's open it. And then as we see, here's the script. So one thing I like to modify is just I'll remove this and then I'll import it through another way. Basically what I'm doing, I'm just importing it so I don't need to write hz at the beginning. I can just use the methods and variables inside it. So instead of hz.entity, I can just write entity instead of hz. And then this script is gonna be connected to that trigger over here. So let's just connect it so we don't forget. So now that that's connected, we'll return back to Visual Studio Code, and then we're gonna connect the trigger event. So this dot connect code blocks events, and then we're connecting to this dot entity since this is since the script is gonna be on the trigger. This dot entity, and then code blocks events dot on player enter trigger. This is the event that's gonna say when the player enters trigger. Also, I'm going through this a bit fast, so as I said, you can watch one of my videos, or if you just want to have the functionality, you can just copy the code and it should work. Also, if you have any questions or things you want me to do, please leave a comment down below and I'll make sure to read them, and I'll do that in future videos. And then finally, for this parameter, we're just missing a function, so let's create a quick function, and then on player enter trigger, and then it's gonna take a parameter of player, and we're gonna call that over here. So this dot on player enter trigger dot bind this. Okay, so here's basically how it works. When the game starts, this is called automatically, and then it's gonna run this piece of code. This piece of code is basically gonna connect an event, and then it's gonna run this method. So the event that's gonna run is gonna connect the code blocks event dot on player enter trigger. So when a player enters trigger, this is provided by Horizon, so you just type that and it's available. And this parameter, the first parameter, it tells you what to listen to. So since we need to listen to a trigger, it's a trigger gizmo, and since the script is currently attached to the trigger, we can just say this dot entity. This refers to the current object that the script is attached to, and we're attaching the script to the trigger. So this would work. If we had, for example, another object, and then we're gonna connect the trigger through the props definition, then we're gonna have to write this dot props dot and then the entity you're connecting to. which is gonna be a trigger if we're connecting to on player enter trigger. And then after it receives any trigger events, it's gonna call this method which we just made over here. It's called on player enter trigger, and then it takes a player. We get what player entered the trigger. And now over here, when the player enters, to make sure that this works, which it does work, you need to trust me on that, but here let's do it anyway. So console.log, this is just extra to make sure that that works. Console.log player entered trigger. Okay, and with this setup we should already start getting console.logs over here. So let's test that. So let's start the game, and we have the script connected, and then preview, and then every time we come over here, you see how down in the console we logged out the message we wrote, which is player enter trigger. Now to teleport the player, first we need to have a position where we're gonna teleport him to. So you can literally get the position by any way depending on your game. For example, if you wanna teleport the player to an object, you can get the object's position throughout, for example, this.entity.position.get. Okay, but this case we're getting the position of the trigger. You probably want to get the position of another object, but you can get it throughout this way, and then you're gonna pass it through the code that I'm gonna write next. So the actual code to teleport the player, that's the main thing, is gonna be, you're gonna call the player and then .position.set. This changes the position of the player, and for this to work you just need to remember to enable the setting over here under player and settings, which that's the setting we went over through at the beginning of the video. And after you make sure this is enabled, and make sure to click save, because trust me, if you forget that, it's gonna cause you a headache. Don't ask me how I know. Okay, and then we're just gonna set the position to a vector 3. We can choose basically any vector we want. In this case, just because I'm testing, I can just write vec3. I'm just showing you how. .1 for example. And if you wanna make a new vector, you can make a new vector 3, and then you can pass in the coordinates. So you can do like 2 comma, so that's the x. You can have 5 on the y, so that means you're gonna fall down, and then you can have 0 for example on the z, and then this is gonna teleport the player to that vector 3 position over here. So this is basically all you need to know for this one. Also, I'm gonna go over another way to teleport the player using a spawn point, which might be easier for you. Let's make sure that this works first, and then we're gonna go to the other version, or to the other way to do it. And both way works, it just depends on your code and the game that you're doing. So make sure that you save the script over here, and then we're gonna restart the world, play, and then anytime we go through the trigger, you see how we got teleported. So this is basically all you need to know to teleport the player. But let's go through the other way, because the other way is cool too. So for the other way, you need to have a spawn point. So let's disable this part first, since we already used that. And in the props definition over here, you can connect other objects or other entities to your script. So let's make a place to connect it first. So we're gonna call it spawn point. You can call it whatever you want. And then here's the syntax, or how you write it in code. So spawn point, colon, and then you open 2 curly braces, you write type. And then the type of this entity that we're gonna connect is gonna be an entity. You can connect assets, you can connect other stuff too. So prop types dot entity, and then comma, and then right now we save it, and then you should see a slot available for you to connect it on the object that has the script attached. If that was too long, just replay that. And as you see over here, we have a place to connect the spawn point, so we can reference it and teleport to it. And I'm just gonna go to the hierarchy panel and then drag the spawn point into this section over here. And then it should be as simple as this to connect the spawn point. After that, instead of using this way, we can just go and use the spawn point. And to reference variables or entities over here, you have to go through this dot props, and then after you write props, this refers to any variables you have in here. So now we can see the spawn point. And now we've gotten, this is the reference to the spawn point. But now we just need to send an event. But there's two things. Sometimes we might forget it. We might forget to connect it over here. So we need to make sure that this is defined. So to make that, now I'm diving a little bit deeper into TypeScript, but so we need to write an if statement, and then we're gonna make sure that this is this.props.spawnPoint is defined. So this.props.spawnPoint, and by writing this code, this tells us that if this is defined, so if we actually connected that and did not forget, hopefully we don't forget that, it causes a lot of headaches sometimes. So if there's an actual spawn point and we've connected that, now we can call the spawn point, and then we can press dot, and now we know this is defined, so we can teleport to it. And to teleport for it, before we do that, we need to say to TypeScript that this is a spawn point gizmo, because TypeScript doesn't know that. So we're gonna say as, and then spawn point gizmo. And then now, because we said that, now we have the features of the spawn point gizmo. So the feature is gonna be dot, and then it's gonna be teleport player. And then after we do that, we just pass in the player, which we have as a parameter over here, or an input. And then that's basically, it's as simple as that. That's all you need to know to teleport a player. So it's basically all about this line, and the rest of the lines, they're just like setting things up and like necessary things that you need to have. And then if we save that, whenever we enter this trigger, which we just wrote that, so the script is attached on this trigger. So whenever we enter this trigger, we're gonna teleport to this spawn point, because we connected this spawn point to this trigger over here on the right hand side. So right now you can place this wherever you want, and then you're gonna teleport to it. So if we place this like over here at the edge, we can restart the world, make sure it restarts. And then for teleporting to a spawn point, you don't need to have the custom player movement enabled. It doesn't have to be enabled. Now let's test it. So we're gonna preview from here, and then we can go, and as you see, we got teleported to here. If you noticed, when you teleport to a spawn point, it's much smoother to teleport to it, and also the spawn point, it has more features. Well, you can technically manipulate these things in TypeScript, but if you go to the spawn point, you can go for the force HWXS, I don't know what that stands for, camera, and then you can like set it to first person, third person, orbit, pan, follow. Like you can, if you teleport a player with a spawn point that has one of these options set up, you're gonna actually get the player to teleport to first person, to turn into first person, for example. And there is no main difference, but if you use the position one, it doesn't have like a smooth transition. As for the spawn point, do you see how it fades in and out? Let's change it back to the position one. So let's disable this one. To comment something, you just press Ctrl, you select it, you press Ctrl and then // to comment it, and same thing to uncomment. And then that's the old one. Let's test it. So wait for it to load, and then we're gonna restart the world. And then after we test it, do you see how it just teleports us without any transition? So that's basically it for this video. I hope you understood something, and if you like this video, please drop down a like, and thank you for watching the video.